Another draw last night, Town's fourth game without a win. What were your thoughts on the 1-1 draw with Colchester?
Um, it was a bit of a strange one, really. I mean, first half it was the worst possible start. Jacob Murphy scored for Colchester 38 seconds in, which later proved to be the fastest goal in League One so far this season. So it was a nightmare start, and from then it gave Colchester the belief and the impetus they needed to really pour forward and build attacks. You know, obviously Colchester really needed a win last night to stand any chance of surviving in League One this year and not dropping into League Two. And I mean, first half Swindon were poor in my opinion. They looked devoid of ideas. They were lacklustre. They were sloppy on the ball. They were sloppy in and out of possession. They just looked a side that had been thrown together really, and it was a full strength side last night. You know, it's been well documented the fact that a lot of the first team regulars were rested on Saturday. They were all brought back in last night, and I mean, there's a pattern that's emerged this season. It seemed that any time there's been any real period of rest, they've struggled to get into that rhythm and that early season form that you know is the reason why they are where they are on the table. And I mean, second half they were improved. They did open up the game a lot more, which obviously allowed Colchester plenty of attack. So it was very end to end. Second half, obviously Ben Gladwin's fifth goal in his last four outings, and what I thought would probably a deserved point on the balance of play because they were much better in the second half. But again, the first half performance was worrying really, and it's not great ahead of the playoffs.
Everyone seems to be a bit deflated at the moment with the drop in form. What's your take on it all?
I mean, we did an interview with Andy Williams prior to the MK Dons game over Easter, and obviously that was when Town still had a real chance of going up automatically. And he mentioned that there'd been talks amongst this year's team about the events that happened leading into the playoffs in the 2012-13 campaign. Obviously, you know, Town limped into the playoffs on the last day, or the second to last day, and they were knocked out of the playoffs by Brentford, and that was sort of, you know, Willow was talking then as in, you know, we can't let that happen again, and unfortunately it is happening, and you know, a lot of the fans are a bit tailed off really. I think it's almost, you know, Mark Cooper's admitted in his press calls that the last few games has almost been after the Lord Mayor's show. I think the players, the manager, us in the media, the fans, it's all a bit of a drag. You know, Saturday and yesterday was, you know, if we could have got rid of those games and headed straight into the playoffs, I think everyone would. I think Sunday will be something similar. You know, obviously, at the root cause of most people's concern is why this current form at the moment. You know, they've not won in their last four. They are really struggling to reproduce the performances from the first half of the season. In my opinion, they've struggled to really consistently produce any sort of swashbuckling performances of note since January. So I completely understand why everyone's a little bit uninspired, if that's the word, a little bit fed up with everything. Hopefully that will all change heading into the playoffs.
It's the final day of League One this Sunday. Town will either face Sheffield United or Chesterfield in the playoffs. Who would your personal preference be?
I think first and foremost it's playoffs, so again it's a cliche, but the form book almost goes out the window if you like. I think, you know, there's been a lot done in the local media this week about momentum heading into the playoffs, and I think it's been proven that you don't really need that much heading into the end of the season lottery. I think my personal preference would be Chesterfield, purely because Swindon have beaten them twice this year and they've looked convincing in both games, especially the first one. The second one was a bit close at times. So that'd be my personal preference. I think Sheffield United, for me, I know people say you've got to beat the best to be the best in the playoffs, but Sheffield United, they're built for the playoffs. They're a cup side. I mean, they've always done well in the cups. You know, they've done well in the cups this year. They've got 2 squads pretty much, and they're all quality players. You know, they've got some real good players in their team. You know, Jamie Murphy, Matty Doe, obviously Jamie Keverley, who will be well known to Swindon fans. You know, he seems to have done well up there. So for me, if Swindon could avoid Sheffield United, then I think that would work in their favour. Obviously, you know, Sheffield just need a win against Chesterfield on the final day to book that 5th spot, and therefore the playoffs against Swindon. But I do think, especially having to go to Bramwell Lane in the first leg, I mean, that will be filled to the rafters, and it will be, you know, an electric atmosphere, and I just think that could play against Swindon. So for me, I'd rather see Town take on Chesterfield over 2 legs.
Finally, FLIC's STFC Player of the Year is announced on Sunday. Who would you pick?
For me, it's got to be Jordan Turnbull. I mean, he's arrived on loan from Southampton. I mean, when he came on loan, it was almost not that many people had heard of him, but also a lot of the fans were still waiting on Jack Stevens. You know, Jack Stevens had been dragging on for a while. Jordan came in, and there was talk of, you know, will Jack Stevens come? Will he not? So Jordan almost sort of came in under the radar, really, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting him to be as good as he has been this year. And I mean, consistently all season he's been absolutely superb at the back. He's been a rock in that back three. You know, he's good in the air. He's impressive with the ball at his feet. The way he strides out of the back three and into midfield and sets things up, it's just been great to see. You know, he's finally got his first goal as well. He's earned England under-20s recognition this season, and you know, you only have to go back a couple months when he signed a new 3-year deal with his parent club Southampton to realise how highly rated he is by them on the South Coast. So for me, it would have to be Jordan Turnbull. I think he deserves it. He's been a real standout performer. You know, there are obviously a few other contenders. You know, we've been quite a sport this year. Wes Fodringham's obviously up there, and his recent performances have probably earned him a few votes. Nathan and Louis Thompson have been brilliant all year. Andy Williams has obviously 21 goals. Nathan Byrne has been outstanding. You've obviously got Massimo Luongo, who's had a brilliant year. Yasser Kathim, I think Harry Toffolo's come in and done amazingly well. So there's plenty of contenders, but for me, Jordan deserves to be crowned on the weekend.